Hello there, my name's Ashley Shaw and I'm making this video today in response to a speech that David Cameron made in Birmingham today, in which he singled out Bradford and Oldham as being segregated areas which are responsible for the rise in Islamic extremism in Britain today. Now I'll start off by reading an excerpt of what Mr Cameron has to say. Just bear with me while I put my glasses on, please, because I need to read this. So, Mr Cameron says, "It is no coincidence that these are some of the places where the community relations have historically been most tense, where poisonous far-right and Islamist extremists desperately try to stoke tension and foster divisions. So in some estates, segregation has increased or stayed deeply entrenched for decades." Now, the first thing I'd like to point out is that the largest estate in Britain is in fact in Bradford, and that is a majority white estate where I think only about 2% of Asians live on it. And that is a council-owned estate. So it's clear that the council are responsible for the segregation in Bradford, if there is segregation in Bradford. However, there is a place called Heaton where there is no segregation. There is Christians, Muslims, Asians, Polish, Czechoslovakians, people from all over the place live there. So to paint this picture of Bradford as being a divided area and segregated for a start is a complete and utter nonsense. Secondly, he keeps going on about extremism, Islamic extremism. Well, there is no such thing as Islamic extremism because Islam teaches love and peace, and it does not in any way, these extremists do not in any way speak for Islam or Muslims. They are just that, extremists. And what they do has nothing to do with the religion of Islam whatsoever. So him perpetuating the lie that Islamic extremism, I'm sick of hearing Islamic extremism. It's just terrorism. It's just extremism and has nothing whatsoever to do with Islam. Another point I'd like to make is that I'm actually sat in Bradford as I speak. I'm sat in my friend's house, who is a revert, and I have been so fortunate to meet some of the most amazing, wonderful, beautiful human beings who just happen to be Muslim. And every single one of them has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with terrorism or extremism in any way whatsoever. And where it's true that, yes, some people from Bradford have gone to Syria, that has nothing to do with segregation. It has nothing to do with what's being taught in the mosques. It has nothing to do with what people are talking about on the street. In fact, that's the complete opposite. What people are talking about on the street is that these people are fools and that don't stand for Islam and don't stand with what any of these Muslims and my friends and people in this area believe. So Mr Cameron and his rhetoric is fostering hatred of Islam. Every single time this man opens his mouth, he is putting down Muslims and he is fostering fear within the wider community of Britain. So, I mean, I just want to swear, I'm so disgusted with him. If that isn't leading people to believe the completely wrong end of the stick, I don't know what is. So, what I do want you to understand is that when David Cameron talks about Islamic extremism, do not for 1 second believe that that man is talking about Muslims in Bradford or talking about Muslims in Oldham or talking about Muslims anywhere else in the country, because individual people are going to Syria. They have nothing to do with the Muslim community, and they are not being taught by the Muslim community to do this. So Mr Cameron talking about these areas as being segregated, well, I just pointed out that the biggest estate, and in fact only estate, well, not only estate, but there isn't actually a similar estate where Muslims live. The estate is a white majority estate. Muslims live together in communities in other areas of the city, that's true. But then let's think about this people. Chinese people, they all live together. They live in Chinatown. Jewish people live in the Jewish quarter. It is natural for people of a similar country, religion, background to want to live together. It's nothing new. So please don't be telling the rest of us that Muslims are like this special case where they all want to just live on their own. That isn't the case at all. Polish people will all live with each other in Polish areas. So Stop singling out Muslims living together as being some kind of a terrible thing. It isn't a terrible thing. And the community here in Bradford is an absolutely amazing community. They're very loving and very giving, and I think one of the main reasons why Mr. Cameron's pointing this out is because they fight very, very hard against Islamophobia and to try and point out to the rest of the world that Islam and Muslims do not stand for ISIS or any other terrorist group. So when you're hearing Mr. Cameron talk this absolute nonsense, I want you to please see it as that. It is absolute nonsense. Some areas, yes, Muslims have gone to Syria, I can't deny that, but they don't speak for or stand with the rest of the Muslims in the area that they live with. Mr. Cameron is a very dangerous man, and this nonsense that he's come out with today is just fueling the Islamophobia that's rife not only in Britain but across the globe at the moment. ISIS has nothing to do with Islam. Neither has Al-Qaeda. None of those terrorist organisations ever have anything to do with Islam. Islam is a wonderful and beautiful religion of peace and love. And Mr. Cameron, what the hell do you think you're playing at? All this is doing is breeding and fostering hatred and fear. I mean, the fear-mongering is just, it's gotten to levels that in the last year, the fear-mongering of Islamophobia is just, it's skyrocketed. And let's think about it, Islamophobia. Phobia, it means an irrational fear. People have an irrational fear and hatred of Islam. Why? Because the media and our governments are telling you to fear it. Here, he isn't openly telling you to fear it, but it is making you mistrust Muslims. Muslims in this country are beautiful people. Some of the most amazing, caring, gifted people I know are Muslim. They just happen to be Muslim. So please don't listen to this absolute nonsense. It's driving me insane. I don't know how the Muslims in this country are coping with it. Put it this way. How many Muslims have left Britain to join ISIS? I'm not really sure. It's about 1,000, I think. There are nearly 3 million Muslims here in Britain. If the Muslims that went to Syria stand for Islam, then surely the rest of the Muslims in Britain would all be leaving in droves. But it doesn't. Terrorism has nothing to do with the religion of Islam. Terrorism doesn't have a religion. Terrorism is just terrorism. Now, I want you to remember that at all costs, people, because the fear-mongering is getting beyond a joke. And Mr. Cameron is tarring all the Muslims in Bradford and Oldham with the same brush. There is no big fight. There is no massive amount of extremists trying to cause division. That's lies. That's just pure, unadulterated lies. Yes, there are separate communities, but there are separate communities in everywhere. Within every culture, within every community, within every country. So please remember this, people. Don't be taken in by this man's nonsense. He's fear-mongering. Ask yourself why. Question everything. The Muslims that have gone to Syria, they don't speak for the other 3 million Muslims in this country. And they certainly don't speak for the people of Bradford. So please remember this, because extremism and terrorism has nothing to do with any religion. In that case, the white people that kill, they don't say Christian kills. They just say madman kills. So why keep shouting out that it's a Muslim when a Muslim does something? It's fear-mongering. And we're being taught to fear. Now, you've got to think about the bigger picture. Why are we being taught to fear? It's because of what's coming next. It's so that you, ordinary people, white British people, start fearing Muslims in this country. Why does he want you to do that? They're peaceful, loving, generous, giving people who have nothing to do. And also another thing, no, they don't have to stand up and say, we don't believe in ISIS. We're nothing to do with that. I don't want a single Muslim ever to have to stand up and say that we don't stand with ISIS. Of course they don't stand with ISIS. Please, think, people. Think.